have a little bit of cleanup that we need to do here, and then we'll get rolling. Um, we have a very short thing I have to get done, and that is finishing the basing on these crossbowmen. And we will do that shortly. And did I bring the new paint over here? I didn't. I'll be right back. I picked up that color that I picked up over the weekend. I'll be right back. Typical unscripted fashion. This is the new color that we picked up. We're going to be using that shortly. And this is Iron Warriors, which is, I noticed, as I said, the darkest one I had, which is the one I transferred over onto here, was the Lead Belcher, and the Iron Warriors is significantly darker. So we're going to see how this behaves with Nolan. So we're going to leave these two out and put the rest of this stuff away. Because when I stop filming, I literally do not do anything else. There is no cleanup or anything else. And it's about 9:15 here, so we're good for about an hour for sure. And one thing I wanted to do is also I'm going to commandeer this new cup. And this is going to take the place of this old Moe's cup. I think I've had this probably every bit of 10 years. So bye-bye, Mr. Moe's cup. You've been good to me, but you're gone, so. I'm tired of looking at that thing, and they were going to throw this thing out, and I'm like, no, I can use this as my new water cup. This is from the city of Tallahassee. My daughter went over there for some student government thing, and they decided to Tallahassee taxes to pay for a bunch of water cups for a bunch of kids. We'll figure. Anyhow, so we've got these guys right here. This is what we've already put the goop on them, and we'll flip this around in a second. We just need to put some of this stuff on. Maybe some other people will join us. Already got one person there. Hello, welcome. And you know, I like to control some of this chaos, but as you can see, sometimes it's just difficult for me to think with all this stuff on the table. I'm sure some of you guys are the same way. Anyhow, so what I've started using actually is this needle as my mixing thing for the epoxy. That seems to work a lot better because when I'm done with it, I can just come in here and just take this stuff off, and it's good as new. So I'm not going through pieces of wood or toothpicks left and right. So that's what I was doing, is the toothpicks. So today is day one of painting extravaganza. I'm playing the role of Mr. Bachelor, and the girls are gone for a week, and we're going to try to get some stuff done. Hey, Mr. Joe! Welcome. Yeah, so the girls are gone for a week. They just left today. They're going to Colorado. So we will see how much painting we can get done. Meanwhile, unfortunately, I have to work. So that always puts a damper on things, but you know, we'll have some good painting sessions over the weekend. We're going to try to get on tomorrow as well as Friday. You know, Mr. Party here on Friday night is going to be involved painting, so we're going to do some of that. I am not the most awake person in the evenings. I do wake up at 5 a.m. every morning, whether I have the day off or not. And so when it rolls into this evening, I am flat out burned out, to be honest with you. But I wanted to get the show rolling because I'm tired of looking at these guys. Okay, I think this is enough crap that I've gotten off here. Let's flip this thing 180 and get it going on here. Let's see. Let's loosen this up. Man, I wish I had a quicker release mount on this thing. Hold on. Let's do this. I actually saw someone that had a different camera mount, and I said, hey, I wonder if that'll work for me, but it didn't. Well, this made it worse. All right, folks. We're gonna let this sit here while I fight with this thing. Look, you son of a biscuit eater. All right, that's all I needed. And we're gonna rotate this like this, so it needs to be tight like in that position. Got it. Unscripted stupidity. All right. Blammo. There we go. For whatever reason, if you have a camera, well, maybe it's just specific to my camera. If you have a phone that you're using as a camera, you've got two sides. You've got the front facing, which is like when you look at your apps and everything on the front of your phone. That's the one you use all the time. And then the camera's on the back side. This is being shot with the front side, and it's like the front side camera has a lot better resolution than the back side camera, and you would think it would be the opposite. But see, it's clear. If I flip the camera around, it just doesn't work as well. So this is what we have. We have the base color of the chocolate brown, okay? And that's all we've done to it. So we're going to go ahead and do the dry brushing of the other three colors, and maybe do some grassing as well. And then we can go on and do the Petronel guys. We'll see if we can finish a horse this evening. We will see. Anyhow, take a sip. Oh, no coffee this time. Okay, so we don't want to look at a mess here. So let's go ahead and a sheet that we already have a mess with. Here we go. Look at this nasty thing. All right. What are we looking for? We're looking for this. Nope, wrong one. We're looking for, they all look very similar for the back. We're looking for field trab. Let's see here. I know what color I want. I just need to find it. Is it out here? No. No. All right. Geez, I don't have that many colors. Let's try this one. Nope. Let's try this one. Nope, I found the two army painter ones. Let's try this one. Yay! Field drab. Okay, and then the other one is Mr. Iraqi Sand. Let's see, is it this one? Nope. Is it this one? This is the one. Okay. Whew! That's exhausting. That was almost the hardest thing I've do today. I need to organize this a little bit better by the time the weekend goes around. I've got all kinds of materials that I got. Key cards from hotels. If you forget to turn them in, that's great because they're great for, adding little. If you wonder why your hotel rates are going up, that's because Tony forgets to turn them in sometimes. So we'll cut these up and use them for useful things. You could use them even for stands or something like that. I think they're a little too thin to put the tags. Anyhow, right. So we need to get a smaller dry brush. That's probably good. All right. Take my glasses off so I can see. All right. So first things first, we're going to put some of this right there. Get everybody at the office collecting these cardboard things for me. I use the heck out of them. All right, let's put this somewhere where we can get to it and I'm not going to worry about getting into his close to his legs too much. I will come in afterwards and use a different method to get in there with a thinner brush with, I don't want to get any of this splatter back on the figure. And it seems like this stand, they're really crowded on this stand. They're on a 40 by 30, but I mean 40 by 20, but they seem pretty crowded on here. It's a little difficult to sometimes get in between them. Let's just get the most of this. Good old minifigs. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to take, let's rinse this thing out. We're going to, there we go. We're going to take a regular brush, in other words, not one that's crummy. Doesn't have to be the best one I have. And we're going to get this concoction kind of wet, kind of watered down a little bit. And then that's what we're going to put in closer to the figure. It's a little too wet. And that's just so there's some kind of that color close to the figure's base. You could do it whatever method you want. This one seems to work for me. Just figured I'd share it with you guys. Hey, you can't help but figure some things out along the way. And here's another reason why you use magnetic stands and not metal stands, because look, you could put them on here. This just keeps me from having to hold it. When I paint the edges, I also scoop this towards the edge. So I paint that and then turn it like this and then paint that one to try to minimize the amount of paint that gets where you don't want it. It's not that big of a deal, but sometimes you'll have like paint here and you put your hand in it and then you track it somewhere else. And you don't want to do that. Unless you're trying to, get your house to look like it was painted by Jackson Pollock, which is, not my kind of thing. It doesn't have to be perfect. We are going to put some grass on here anyways. We just need to kind of get the impression that there's some dirt and stuff down here. All right, let's rinse that brush out because we don't want that one to crap out on us. All right, this one, let's dry this one out. Let's put all Iraqi sand. See, now the problem is I've got this paint here that doesn't need to be there. So hopefully we won't make a mess. Unintended mess. Got another person here. Welcome, welcome. Sorry I couldn't get on earlier. I'm just trying to knock some stuff out. I'm really going to try to make an effort to stay busy this week so I don't house because I'm quite capable. That's my superpower. I like to eat. And it doesn't have to be unhealthy things. It can be healthy things. I just like to eat a lot. So I'm going to try to stay busy. Oh man. Now, the only catch with this, I've mentioned this before, that I've kind of developed a bad habit of never having to wait for anything to dry. So when I do encounter something like, say, the goop stage, I've got to wait a minimum of 6 hours before I could do anything. So I've been trying to kind of, do tanks or something like that in the process so that, I could continuously paint, even if it's not exactly what I'm working on at the time, I'm still getting painting done. Now, the other thing that I'm also have there's two things basically that, well, there's a couple things actually that I can't continue to work on. They cause me to have to stop. So one of them is the actual goop. That's probably the longest one. And then when you're sealing and stuff like that, you got to wait at least an hour in between stuff. I know if you look at the instructions, it's supposed to be 24 hours. I'm not waiting no 24 hours in between coats. Okay, I don't have time for that. So usually an hour or two is good, and then you can proceed on there. But the smallest amount of time that you have to wait for something, the one stage of, all right, let's try this again. There is one thing that I have to do a small break for. And it's small. It could be only half an hour. And that is when I come and paint the edge of the stand. Because you don't want to paint it and then the next stage is gluing the tufts and the grass. You don't want the grass to get stuck on the side. Well, you might want to. I don't want it on the side of it. So that is what's going to come up next. So we will we'll take a little break for that from that. Now, same thing. I can't get in there with a color everywhere I would like to. So I'm going to rinse this. And same thing. Let's create a watered down. Not not enough paint that you can't see through it, but enough that you can kind of blend that color in with the surroundings. Because it is the same color that I'm using, so that's probably good enough for now. Now we're going to take our old cheapo black paint. Let's see where it's hanging out. Hopefully I had the foresight to store it upside down. I did not. Oh, I just don't learn. All right, and all we're going to do is see if we can put a blob of this here. It's about all we need. Can't see it on there. Well, not very much. And then let's see, a candidate. So here's something that is illogical, or maybe it does make sense to some of you, but it doesn't make sense to me. If you're going to paint something like the edge of the stand, logically, it would mean, why don't you use a brush that has a square end? No, they're not worth a damn for that. For whatever reason, they work a lot better to have a brush that's round. I don't know. It don't make no sense. Check logic at the door, folks. Another thing doesn't make any sense. If you use this cheap paint, instead of Vallejo for the edges, this cheap paint is flatter than Vallejo because some of these cheaper things have less pigment and they have more filler, and the filler is flat. So because I'm using this and it's flatter, I don't have to come in here and dull coat it. If I didn't want shiny edges, which I don't want shiny edges. That was not a mistake. That was a happy accident. Now, after we're done with this, we're going to have to wait for the edge of the stand to dry. So we're going to go and do something else. I decided to use the cheap paint on the edges. I figured, well, if they get scuffed up somehow, it's easy to repaint it with this cheap paint, but I don't think that it's happened yet. It's not like it's not like I'm intentionally rough handling these figures. Okay, let's rinse that. These guys. All right. So what do we do while that dries? Well, let's take a look at what's next. Well, first of all, let's get rid of this damn thing with this live paint. Let's move that. Okay. All right. So these are the guys that we're going to do next. These are a cav stand. And if you guys aren't following along, this is the medieval German army that I'm doing. I'm making it 3.0 compatible. We got these guys to do, and then we're also going to do a little German war wagon. It's going to be a little bit different than the Hungarian one. Obviously, it looks different, but same thing. We're going to, it's going to be facing like this, this way, and have little guys huddled around it. 4 figures on there. Okay, and we gotta have to put some kind of a heraldry on there. We just have to. I don't know if I'm going to paint it yellow though, because I kind of like my little gun barrage is yellow, my little organ gun for this army, and that makes it kind of unique that it's. I think we're just going to paint this one just regular wood color, but we'll have some heraldry on there, to spice it up a little bit. Okay, so let's make sure we didn't miss any spots with the black on here. I may have already done that before and just checked, and it doesn't look like I did. Well, I got some down here, but we can get to that later. Okay, and let's go ahead and put Mr. Palette back on here. Let's paint some horses. So right off the bat, somebody says, "Hey, what color horses do you want to do?" Well, I want all 3 of them to be different for starters, because the figures are going to basically look identical. They're mostly armored and so forth, so we'll make the difference between the figures become apparent on the horses. So I want to get one that's spotted. I want one that's splotched, like white and black, white and brown, and I want a dark brown one, and then maybe a black one. So, right, well, that's decided. I thought about it a little bit before. Let's do the dark brown one first. Do the easy stuff first, right? That's what I like to do. Because time goes by and then you have something to show for it. If you do the hardest stuff first, you're working on something for a long time and don't have anything to show for it. Okay, time to use my favorite racist brown color, SS Camel Black, which is not black at all. It's very, 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 very dark brown. I'm going to get some of it over here. right. I've had that one a long time and haven't had to replace it. All right, is this one good enough for, I think so. I think this brush is probably sufficient for that. Let's get my friend, which is this. There it is. This is the Vallejo airbrush thinner. All right. All right, we're going to take this entire horse. Doesn't really matter which one I grab. They're all the same. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and grab this one that has the underside problem here and just go ahead and take care of that. Not that that would even be visible, but now that you know it's there, it's kind of an eyesore. All right. As we were. And paint all the horse parts in this dark brown. And it may not be that noticeable, but actually we're going to need a bigger batch than that. The darker the color, the bigger the batch you have to do. Just because you're covering more parts of it. Oh, people woke up. Welcome, welcome. Wednesday, Wednesday, Wednesday. Only 2 days left, folks. Only 2 days left. I don't mind going to work. The problem is when you get done with work, you're about burned out on everything. So hopefully you guys watched the videos, last couple of videos that I had out this week. We did a couple of live videos. That's probably going to be the way that I'm going to do videos for the short term, because it involves no editing. Every time I edit, that takes me away from painting, and right now I didn't get anything done last weekend. We were out of town, so there was no painting really that happened last weekend. So I'm playing catch up. Not that I need to get these guys done by any time period, but you know, I want to get these extras of this army working, so finished, so I can work on the next army, whoever that may be. Okay, once you reasonably have this color on everything, and it's hardly even noticeable, let's add more of this. And I do like painting horses because I've painted for a long time, but it wasn't until 15 years ago, 16 years ago, that I painted a horse. Which I guess that's a long time too. Oh well. But I've been painting for about 30 years, so I guess, you know, I just enjoy, you know, painting the muscles and stuff like that. Some people don't like painting horses. There's a dark spot underneath here too that has some metal shining through. Well, the nice thing is if you do miss a spot, it's not a big deal because it's usually in a place that's not going to be handled well. Okay, so if you're going to miss something, under part of the horse where you're not going to end up putting your finger on and rubbing the paint off. So if you forget it, don't worry about the fact that it doesn't have any primer on it. The paint's not going to come off there. All right. We're doing this? Right. Let's see if we can do, maybe that's better. Well, that's blocking all my light. All right, and then we're going to take this, and we're not going to use white. We're going to use something a little bit warmer. How about this buff color? Just to be different. We'll eventually use white, but let's warm this up a little bit. All right, let's be careful. Let's make sure we didn't overshoot this. There we go. All right, and then let's add, I think this one's a little brighter over here. We can just do that stuff. Okay, and he's super dark, so we're definitely going to put socks on him. But I usually wait to do that afterwards, till the end. But doesn't look like much right now. Lighting's not great under this, but you'll see later. Okay, I think the edges of that paint is finished. Let's check that out. Let's rinse the brushes out. See how we're doing. We'll be finished with these three guys by the end of the weekend for sure. Well, not for sure, but that's the intent. Nothing's for sure. You don't want to run your mouth. Next thing you know, I got to go to the hospital and I got to eat my words. Be humble till finished. All right. And we're going to need to get a little tray that we like to use so that we catch all the flyaways. Hopefully I didn't leave it over there at Mitch's house. I did not. And the old Mr. Elmer's glue. Alright. And I like to put the static grass down first and then the tufts, not the other way around. Okay, well, this is kind of a catch-all. No. Just take this stuff off. This is an old Ziploc type container. Okay, let's put some of this here. It's got a notification of a channel that I follow has a new video, and I've gotten really bad about watching other channels lately. So if you're one of the channel people that's just dying for me to watch your video, I apologize. I've been working on so much of my own stuff that I've forgotten. I do like watching other content. I just don't watch any other content when I'm doing this. Because then, you know, when your content is over, then I go looking for something else, and that's distracting for me. All right. Where's the happy grass going to grow? Well, we're going to put some... Oh, geez. That one's not going to work. Need one softer than that. It'll work. Okay. There's a happy patch right here. All right. All right, then let's put this away. A quiet night. Shh. Man, it's late in your part of the world. You are a night owl, my friend. All right, let's take some of this stuff here, and we can be kind of careless with it. Well, we'll find out if the edge is dry or not. Woo, that's going to create a problem. And I just like to use the end of the brush because it's not sharp, and I'm not going to scuff up any of the paint work that I did. It's okay to be a little wasteful because this is just going to get recycled. It's going to get put right back in there. So let's check off the excess. Okay. Take a look and see if that's what you want. It's kind of light in a few places, but that'll work. That gives you some space to put some tufts. Speaking of which, all right, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to tap this stuff. And just put it right back in. If you do this, don't use a shirt that is synthetic because this grass will just be everywhere. It's going to fall in love with your shirt. Right. Here's the lid for that. Now, where's Tufflandia? Let's see. We got one there. Oh, Those didn't get packaged very well. So, I went, hello, I'm glad that didn't hit the floor. I went shopping in Jacksonville, and I went to a hobby store there, and they had Games Workshop paints where I picked up this. If you watch my what I picked up in Jacksonville, well, it's not called that, but that's what it was. Then this was one of the other things. In that same store, I'm getting kind of low on tufts, and they had Army Painter stuff there as well. Well, they didn't have any tufts other than ones that were made by Games Workshop. And Games Workshop stuff is really, really expensive, right? Compared to some other things. Compared to Army Painter, they're expensive. But that doesn't mean I won't buy it. I just, it's just a commentary. So they did have tufts there, and I was going to pick them up because they're kind of they look a little different. They have kind of some irregular shapes. But I looked at the back, and I wonder where they're made. Well, they made them in frickin' China. So you're paying a ton of money for Games Workshop stuff, and they still end up making them over there at the, in that wonderful place. So let's just say I didn't buy them. They also had a sprue cutter that was also made in China. So, if you're going to price yourself way out of the market, at least make things in countries that are not totalitarian. How about that? So, oh well. I just don't want to mail order these tufts. I'm not completely out. I'm just, I'm getting kind of low. So I was surprised that the Games Workshop stuff was made over there. I really was. Just those two items, because their paint is still made in the United Kingdom. So I check for that on everything now that I buy. So I don't want none of that stuff. If you still continue buying from them, that's good for you, but I'm not going to. So. All right. I'm going to cut this in half, and let's cut it in half again because these things are pretty darn big. And let's go ahead and put it back on this. After you flock my bases, like to sand the edges and paint them again. It gives me a nice clean edge. Well, I don't have any stuff on them. So far so good. All it takes is like maybe 15 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever it was to put them on there. Okay, so we want a big fat one right there. So let's go ahead and put this big shrubbery right here. One that's not too expensive. Yeah, I was actually floored that the Games Workshop stuff came from China. Couldn't believe that. They should just spend less on advertising. I mean, everybody knows who Games Workshop is. It's not like you got to keep advertising, because advertising, I'm sure, is expensive. That's got to be where a big part of their costs come. I don't know. I'm just guessing. Here's a big old clump right there. All right. And we may end up not using all these, but let's do this one in between those two dudes over there. But it's like Coca-Cola. Does Coca-Cola really need to do any more advertising? I'm sure some kind of write-off or something like that, but come on. Okay, see how we're doing so far. Okay. And then we'll put one of these other ones back here in the corner over here. Not the corner, but right there. It's good to use these tufts to cover over imperfections of your basing. Like your basing may look good, but after a while it dries, it invariably ends up shrinking a little bit. So it looks slightly different than when you put it on. So it's good to use this stuff to cover it up. Well, that's what I do. I'm sure all the other wizards do stuff like that as well. You'll look at somebody's work and say, man, that looks perfect. It's not. You just don't know where the mistakes are. And I don't either. It's just, the person that makes them is the one that knows where all the loopholes are of that. We good with this? Let's put one more over here. This area seems to be really barren on the front of the stand. I had to push these figures towards the back of the stand. And in doing so, it leaves the area underneath these crossbows a little barren. All right, now let's look at that. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with these guys. Yeah, we're going to call these guys done. All right. Next. Well, on that note, I'm going to call this a night. It's 10 o'clock. I only got on here for about an hour or so, but I wanted to knock that out, do a little bit of chit-chatting, and now we're done with those guys. Now we can move on to something else. Mr. Marco, how are you? Kicking it Texas style. So now, when we come back, we will be focusing on these guys, which this is a cab stand. And then we'll do the war wagon, and then we'll be done with these dastardly Germans. We'll be done with these guys. Go on to something else. So good. Now you can go back to bed. I like it. Keeping you up at night. Should be about the same time, maybe a little earlier tomorrow. But yeah, we'll be back on and work on another horse. So this doesn't look like much, but you'll see. I usually leave the mane till last, and I leave the socks till last. And the reason I do that is because invariably painting the rest of the figure, my finger's going to go around and I'm going to end up scuffing the bottom of the horse. So there's no point in painting all that stuff and then scuffing it up and then having to repaint it. I'll just avoid it until last. So, okay. But we are going to paint one of these figures completely, then move on to the other one, then move on to the other one. So, okay. Until next time, you guys have a good evening, and we will catch you guys on the flip side. See ya!